you so much, everyone, for being here. I'm looking forward to spending the next hour and a half talking with you about how to simplify your Greek studies using accordance. And I just wanted to show my face and say hello. So now I'm going to turn off the webcam and we're going to focus on the app of accordance itself. So I've got some information here that I want to share with you just at the very beginning. This class has Greek beginners in mind, but everyone can benefit. And as soon as you start learning Greek, you can access features and tools in accordance that will help you retain your Greek for years to come. And this is an outline of the class. And I've split it up today into semesters, imagining the path of Greek learning that a typical Greek student might undertake. And so just by way of overview today, we're going to begin with what I imagine is happening in the first semester, and that is trying to make the most of your Greek grammar textbook. And for that, we're going to use a case study. We're going to use a particular book, rather, called Reading Koine Greek by Rod Decker, and I'll open that up and show it to you. And you may be surprised to see all of the ways that you can interact with a particular grammar textbook in accordance. It is far, far more than an e-reader. And I'd like to spend some time showing you all that you can do. And so we'll look at search fields in particular and some ways that you can interact with your textbook. So that will be the first semester. I imagine that you're focusing on making the most of your Greek grammar textbook. So then we'll move on to semester 2 and looking at the biblical text. So Greek vocabulary and parsings in context. So as you are starting to build up a base of vocabulary, as you're starting to understand participles and indicative verbs and masculine plural versus feminine singular, how can you see all of that stuff in context? And that's kind of where Greek learning starts to get a little bit more fun. It's moving beyond just the basics of having to memorize the alphabet, practice writing out the letters, and learn things like that, and moving into actually seeing it in context because you have enough Greek that you can start to delve into the biblical text. So then third, we're going to look at what I imagine is really happening in third semester Greek. Maybe after a year of Greek, you move into an exegesis class or something similar. And so we'll talk about how you can read the Greek New Testament in accordance. And so we're thinking of those 3 semesters today. First, making the most of your Greek grammar textbook. Second, Greek vocabulary and parsings in context, and then third semester Greek, reading the Greek New Testament. All of those overlap, and again, your particular journey or path through Greek studies may differ a little bit, but I'm trying to give you something that you can find useful for any stage of your journey. And then finally, we're going to conclude with just very basic Greek word studies without Greek. This class is pitched toward beginners, and so I want to make sure that even if you don't know Greek or you're very early on, but you're already writing sermons or preparing Bible studies, I want to show you in just a few steps how you can do some basic Greek word studies, even if you don't know Greek. So that's where we'll conclude, and then we're going to spend some time at the end taking questions as folks have them. So with that said, let's begin with this first semester, making the most of your Greek grammar textbook. And there are multiple Greek grammars in accordance. I learned using Mounts. Decker is a really good one that is available in accordance. And so I'm going to open that up and show you how to work your way through that. So I've just opened up the library here using the toolbar. And I've typed Decker, that's the author, and you can see the information here, Rodney Decker, Reading Koine Greek, an introduction and integrated workbook by Rodney Decker. And so I'm going to go ahead and open that up, close my library to maximize my screen real estate here. And so it opened up to the last place where I was, but I'm just going to scroll all the way up to the beginning. You can, of course, browse through this grammar as you could any ebook or print book, and that may be the primary way that you're making your way through it. You may simply be reading it as you would be turning physical pages. You can open up the contents sidebar here and see the table of contents. Some of these triangles, when you see a triangle that's pointing right, it can expand, and you can see the subheadings here and the different sections that are here. And so you certainly could just browse through this grammar, and using the content sidebar, which is, you can hide or show it here, Using the content sidebar, you could just kind of browse and see what's here. Okay, here are verbs, here are prepositions, here are nouns. Okay, I'm going to jump in there. What does he say about nouns? And you can start to work your way through there. Clicking on anything here will advance you to that portion of the text. That much is probably something you could do with just about any e-reader, or if you had a Kindle version of this. But that's about where the similarities stop, because I want to talk to you about search fields in this grammar. And I've written here in the notes, this is a user tool that I've made available, by the way, and that ought to be uploading shortly to the webinar. We'll make sure one way or the other that you have this in your possession before the end of the day. But these are just my notes for where we're going next. So let's talk about search fields, what they are and how to use them. So I've got this Greek grammar. Again, I can just scroll through the content sidebar. But these search fields really are what set accordance modules apart from other modules in other softwares. And you'll see here when I click on this shaded area that I've got a number of options. And these are specific ways that I can search the grammar. The way that I've got it put here, search fields allow you to perform targeted searches in a tool, that is to find different kinds of specific content. And so I can search the field, I can toggle between any of these search fields. We're going to go through all of them, but it allows me to really narrow down my search and very quickly get to the specific kinds of content that I want. It's important to note that search field names vary from tool to tool, and so a different Greek textbook even may have different search fields. For example, commentaries, depending on the editor's stipulations or the publisher, they may have transliteration. Decker does not have transliteration. He uses, as you can see here, actual Greek characters, but there are some commentaries that don't use Greek characters. They just use transliteration, and then you would see a transliteration search field. So this search field is not standardized. This menu of search fields is not standardized. It is different for each tool in accordance, but there's a lot of overlap. You can expect to find scripture search fields, something related to Greek, if there's Greek in there, content or transliteration, section numbers, so on and so forth. You can use a keyboard shortcut, and I've noted it here, to cycle through the different fields. And so I can just click on titles and I can change it to scripture. Or if I want to, I'm on a Mac here, I'm going to do Command and semicolon, and I'm just, without my hands leaving the keyboard, I'm toggling through the different search fields with that keyboard shortcut. So I want to do a brief tour of search fields in this particular module, reading Koine Greek, and we're going to start with titles, and that is basically just headings. Anything that's in bold that's going to be a heading. In fact, with any search field, there's a neat little trick that you can do. Well, it's not really a trick, it's just a nice feature. In this search entry box right here, I've got the search field set to titles. I can right click and I get a menu here, and I go to enter word ... and this is true in any app, but if you see the ... that means there's another menu coming when you open it. So I'm going to open up enter word, and now I have a full list of words that are eligible for my search for titles. Now these numbers are just when there's a number in the title, so I'm more likely to use things like aorist. And so I can select from this menu here. I could even select multiple options, and it's going to add it here to this little box. And so maybe I want to search aorist and I want to search perfect at the same time. I can click enter. It's going to write this in the correct syntax for me, which is word, comma, word, and it's enclosing that in parentheses. And so now I'm going to see every title in Decker, which is going to be a bold heading, where either aorist or perfect occurs. And I can go up or down by hit, and I can quickly make my way through the grammar to see where those words are, if those were the two verb types that I was working on, for example. So I set the search field to titles, right-clicked, enter word, and then there's my list of options. I don't need that menu. I can just say, all right, I know I need to work on participles. or maybe we're studying participles in class. This works great for review, by the way. We're talking about first semester Greek here, but let's say you've made your way through this Greek grammar and you've forgotten participles. Well, you can just type in the word there and it's going to take you to any titles or headings that have that. Opening the sidebar then, the content sidebar will show you in context where you are in the grammar. And so you can open and close that if you want to see where you are in the grammar. Of course, here you have a section number, so that tells you. So that's titles, that's headings. That's probably what you're going to be using when you're really trying to get into a topic and see what Decker has about it. You would probably use the title search. There's also the section numbers. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
We cannot attach a .acc file to the GoToWebinar, so I will include that as an attachment in an email to everyone later.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Yeah, thanks for letting us know. Yeah, and so what you all are going to be seeing then from Linda later on is exactly what I have here. You'll receive it, just click it, it will open up in your accordance just like this. So you can still take notes as you like, or just know that notes are coming later. Okay, thanks, Linda. Section numbers then, I would imagine these being useful if you're following a syllabus or classwork, and so perhaps the professor says turn to section 4.1 or 4.2 or whatever it is, you would just type that in and it's going to take you to that particular section there. So that's section numbers. English content now, and I've noted all of this in the user tool that's coming your way later on. English content is going to be any English content in the body of the text, so not headings. So for example, if you have studied, let's say imperative, if we've got 16 hits here. So let's say you've made your way through the sections where imperative is a heading. You may want to do even more detailed work, in which case you change the search field to English content, and you're going to see 147 hits. So now I'm going to see every time in the body of the text that Decker mentions imperative. All right, so scripture is just what it says. You can see if any particular verse is treated in your grammar. So I'm going to type in John 1:1, and it's going to take me to John 1:1, which is here as a sample reading in chapter 2. You can see it highlighted the number 1 in red and bold there. And if I advance down, I'll see other places that it occurs, as well as some notes and study questions that come up with John 1:1. So this is a nice way, even in your very first semester of Greek, you might have some particular passages in mind that you're saying to yourself, as I learn Greek, I want to make sure and go and read this passage as soon as I can in Greek. Maybe it's John 3:16, and so you just see if Decker has that, and sure enough, he does. And you can see where this is. This is early on. You'll get it as a translation exercise, but that's the scripture search field. Greek content, just as it says, is Greek words. And so that's going to give you lots of possibilities. You can just right click again to go to enter word and get a full word list of every Greek word that is in Decker. Now it's going to be fairly thorough because he's got at the end, he's got an index, I believe, that includes Greek words, or if it doesn't, then at least with the vocabulary, you're going to have a lot of Greek. Field, so you could search by a particular manuscript if you were beginning Greek with an interest in what's called text criticism, which is manuscript comparisons. You could see the different manuscripts that he mentions. There's a caption search field as well. That's going to take you right to a given figure, and so you could type in figure 1.1 or whatever it is. Again, some of these things like section numbers or captions, or we'll look at page numbers in a minute, those are going to help bridge the gap between a classroom setting where you know, maybe others have it in print and you've got the electronic version. You can still very quickly get to specific references. And by the way, we didn't show this yet. I didn't put this in the handout, but if you want to see all captions, we did talk about the right-click enter word to see the list of words that will occur in captions. But there's another keyboard, or there's another string you can put into the search entry box, and that is asterisk followed by question mark, which means find all words that are tagged with this captions search field. So find all captions. and it's going to show you figure 1.1. And let me just back up. I did this when I got Decker's Greek Grammar because I didn't even realize there were captions. I didn't know there were pictures or figures in here. And so I was just curious what that even was. So you may find a search field and not know what it is, but you can just type in asterisk question mark, and you're going to see he's got an image of a tablet here. And it's pulled up it's put your text in red and bold to show that it's a positive hit. And you could advance by hit. Of course, it's going to go figure 1.1, 1.2, and you can see all the different things that he's got here. Some of them will be images. This is how to write the Greek alphabet. And so you've got 255 hits that you could cycle through here. Really useful stuff, and you can see it all at a glance by toggling the search field to caption. Table titles is like that. We can do the star, the asterisk and question mark again just to see what's here. These would be things like sidebars, tables, paradigm charts. As you advance through here, you're going to find some notes that maybe didn't quite fit right in the body of the text, but that he wants to add as a sidebar. So here's one, the hazards of pronunciation, and you could continue to cycle through that and see what all is here. Bibliography, that is another search field. That's just to see if a particular author or work is referenced. Page numbers, again, that's kind of bridging the gap between someone who has a print edition or if you're reading another book that says, the reference for this is Decker, page 255, you could just type in the page number and it will take you right there. And then all English, this is new with Accordance 13. This is the equivalent to an internet search engine, and this may by default be the search for English that folks want to use, because that's going to include titles, that's going to include English content, that's going to include, I believe captions are included in that, table titles, basically any English word. If you don't, in other words, if you don't want to be so specific in your search, if you don't want to even think about search fields and you're searching English, you could just go to all English and run a search that way. That is the equivalent to whether it's Google or DuckDuckGo or Yahoo or whatever search engine you use, that would be the equivalent kind of search. But Accordance is unique in the sense that it has these search fields available to you, and that's really going to allow you to maximize your use of this grammar, if not in your first semester right away, certainly as you go back and review this textbook. I found myself, as I said, I learned on with Mounce's Greek grammar in a classroom setting. I had it in print. I was not an Accordance user then, and it's been really useful for me to be able to open up that grammar in Accordance and go back to certain sections or Bible verses or headings or Greek content if I wanted to see how Mounce talked about a particular word or vocabulary word. So these search fields are really useful and worth spending some time with them to make sure that you're getting the most out of a particular tool. And as I say, all Accordance tools, I should say, have search fields, and they vary from tool to tool, but they're going to look something like this. Generally, you're going to have a scripture reference and English content and some kind of foreign language content, provided it has that there. So those are search fields, and that's how to kind of quickly get the lay of the land and hone in on particular parts of your textbook. I want to talk about interacting with your textbook now. There are multiple ways you can do this in Accordance, and it's sort of the equivalent of how do I take pen to paper here. You can mark up your textbook, you can make notes, you can highlight things, and so there are actually multiple ways you can do this, and I want to show you 4. I should say too that in the week-to-week, month-to-month schedule of operations for Accordance Bible software, there are full hour-long webinars that cover each of these. So you could spend an hour in a webinar down the road just on highlights, or just on user notes, just on user tools, just on stacks. I haven't mentioned papers, that's another option here. So I'll just give a brief overview today, and I know we'll have different levels of knowledge of Accordance here, so this will be review for some of you. For others, you may not have seen these features in Accordance, but this will be the 30,000-foot view of highlights, user notes, user tools, and stacks. And then know that if you want to go further with this, we do have these covered in webinars, and there are excellent help files in Accordance, not to mention in Accordance 13 these wonderful tutorials, which are kind of a hands-on way of taking you through lots of different things. And so you'll find some really good stuff there as well. So that's something you could look at later on. But for now, let me give an overview of each of these ways of interacting with your textbook. So I'm just going to go back to the very beginning, and let's go, actually, let's just say chapter 2. And let's say I find something that is interesting to me and that I want to highlight. And that may be the only thing I use, by the way. I'm not necessarily suggesting you use all 4 of these ways to highlight with your textbook. You may just highlight your grammar and that's it, and not do anything with these other ways. So I'll show you and then you can decide. So let's say I find something helpful here, English grammatical terminology. And so maybe I'm a little weak on English grammar, and so I want to really pay attention to this section. And I read here in section 2.4, since Greek uses word endings and not word order to indicate syntactic relationships and thus communicate meaning, you will need to understand the various grammatical categories used in Greek more clearly than you do in your own language. And so this is something I would be learning for the first time. Greek uses word endings and not word order to indicate syntactic relationships and thus communicate meaning. In other words, Greek uses word endings to let you know how the words relate to each other. And so I want to highlight that now. I'm just going to go to highlights here in my toolbar, and you can make different highlight files. And we talk about this in the highlights class, but you can make different highlight files, and you'll see I've got some. I just made a new one for today called 2020 highlights. And once you've got a highlight file created, you can go to the gear icon and you can define a highlight style. So file is the larger denomination and then styles within it. It's sort of like a folder and a document inside the folder. The file you could think of as a folder. The styles are like the individual documents. So I'm going to define a highlight style here. It takes me to this screen, and I need to click New. And I'm just going to call this Decker Grammar for now. Because I might choose to use this highlight file for other books, but I'm just going to call it Decker Grammar, and I'm going to toggle. I've got different color options here. We're just going to use turquoise, and you can see here in the sample text right here, as you create changes to the design of your highlight style, they show here in the sample text. And so I'm going to make the intensity light. You can change the shape. We won't go through all this now. Pattern. You could make it an underline if you wanted to, but I'm just going to do this light turquoise, and I've named it Decker Grammar, so I click on OK. Now it shows in my highlight palette, and so I can go to this text, highlight it, and I can, actually in Accordance 13, you've got a little pop-up here that you can get right to your palette. Your highlight palette. So I'm going to click Decker Grammar. Okay, so I wanted to highlight that. And let's just continue reading through. I'm going to randomly highlight some things now. Let's see, Greek pronouns function almost identically to English pronouns. Well, that's good. So I've got some point of reference. We saw something, a way just now in which Greek and English differ, that word order and case endings, 2 different ways of doing the same thing. But I'm going to highlight that section there, Greek pronouns. And then I may just continue to work my way through this text. And then anything that I find as I'm reading, I can highlight in that given style, whether it's from the pop-up here, or I can open up the highlight palette here and make highlights as I go. So that's a really good way to interact with this grammar, just as you would if you were using a print edition. What I wanted to show you that's really neat then is, let's say you've gone through this, I don't know, let's say 15 chapters or so in a semester. You're at the end of your first semester. Now you're reviewing for the exam, and you want to search all of your highlights everywhere in the book. You can do that in Accordance very easily with what's called the style command. And I'm just going to right-click here and enter command and style. You can see a keyboard shortcut there. Or I could have gone to search, enter command, style, or I could just start typing S-T-Y-L-E and it'll give me the option. And I'm going to search for my particular highlight style, which I believe was called Decker Grammar. And sure enough, 4 hits. So here's section 2.4. You remember we started there. Now I advance by hit. There's 4.5. We remember doing that. Greek pronouns and English pronouns. Advance by hit. Again, that hit arrow is right here, 9.21 in chapter 15. So this, I think, this is one of my favorite things about doing using a grammar textbook in accordance. I can see all of my highlights all at once. Now, these are only 4, but this is especially useful at the end of a semester when you're studying for an exam. And just to show you one more time, I've right-clicked, gone to Enter Command in Style, or again, you can get it from the search menu up here, Enter Command, or just start typing. You can even, if you want to, just do the asterisk for all styles. So those of you who are familiar with highlighting, you may wish to use multiple highlight styles in a grammar, in which case the asterisk search will find all of them for you. But I've just used the one called Decker Grammar. Just have to remember the name. Accordance is particular here. So if I called this Decker Greek, it won't find anything because that's not the name of my highlight style. It is Decker Grammar, and so Accordance wants me to get that exactly right. And let's see if it can get me out of the screen here. All right. I'm going to just restart Accordance here, and we'll get right back up with it. So searching by highlight style, I find particularly useful because I can, like I said, just at a glance see everything that I've been highlighting throughout the semester. User notes are also an option, and this is especially good for a textbook like Decker that has some exercises in it. Where are the exercises? Well, let's toggle the search field to titles and go to exercises. And here's a reading exercise. In fact, this is a practical way of using the search fields that I showed you before. You can just go through all of the exercises at once. So here's, let's just land on this one. We're in chapter 5, section 24, and I want to make a set of user notes now for this grammar. And I'm going to do that, I'm going to go to File. And by the way, we have webinars on this task that lasts an hour, so you're just getting the very abbreviated version. But go to File, User Files, and then you can create a bunch of new stuff here, but we're going to do new user notes. Now, you could add to an existing user notes file if you wanted to, but I'm going to make a new one, and it gives you that warning pop-up. So, but click on OK, and I'm going to call this Decker Grammar Notes, or I might even get specific Decker exercises. Click on OK. So now I can read this exercise, and in the margins here, I'm going to see this plus. This is kind of small on my screen, but as you hover over the right margin, you're going to see a plus where you can type in your responses to the questions, or just notes, or perhaps you want to try your hand at translating this before you look at the English translation. Well, whatever the exercise is, and this is going to vary from grammar to grammar, just click on the plus button there, and it's going to give you a choice of user notes file. I want to go to Decker. Click on OK. It's brand new. And so I might just type in mother-in-law of Simon, note to self, learn all family member names, father, mother, sister, brother. That might just be something I want to make sure that I know how to speak about all the members of a person's family. So I'm just making this note up, but I click on Update now, and you'll see here that it's in the exercises. If I were to even go to a new workspace now, and in my library, open up this Decker exercises file, what's really neat about this is it has the note that I just took, but it also hyperlinks right back to where I entered the exercise. And I can see that in the instant details when I hover over the blue, or I can click it and it will take me right back there. So it's tightly integrated. Wherever you enter a note in your textbook, whether it's to fill out an exercise or answer a question, or just put a note to yourself, wherever you do that, it will automatically link back to it so that you can seamlessly go back and forth between exercises, or I'm sorry, between your user notes and the textbook in which you took the user notes. User tool is another option. Go to File, go to user files and then new user tool. I won't really spend a lot of time on that, but it looks like what I'm using here for my outline. You could create your own study guide. Maybe in the right-hand zone, you've got all of your highlighted files, or I'm sorry, all of your highlighted words, sections, and you copy and paste them into your user tool. A user tool is another option that you could use. And then there's also a stack. In accordance, you can make a stack, which is just a collection of quotations or things that you want to pull from a particular tool. And to show you the stack, again, you go to File, User Files. You can create a new stack if you like. And so I'm going to make one called Decker Stack, and I'll click on OK. And so there's nothing there, but as I am going through my Decker grammar now, I can take a whole section and highlight it and add it right to the stack. So I'll just take this part right here, and now I'm going to right click, and I'll see the option here, Add Selection to Stack. There's a keyboard shortcut. And what it's going to do now is quote it and give me the source. And as you might have guessed, this hyperlinks you right back to where you took the section from. And so I go on through here and I find something else, right click, add selection to stack, there it is. This is really nicely formatted. This might be aesthetically pleasing enough that you want to use this over, say, user notes or user tool. Again, all of this is personal preference. I would not necessarily recommend using all 4 of these ways of interacting with a given tool. You might just pick 1 or 2 that feel the most relevant to you. But as with the user notes, now when I have a section here from Decker, hovering over this book image turns it to a magnifying glass, which means that this is a hyperlink. And as you will have guessed, clicking on it opens right up to that section in context, so that I can use this stack as a collection of all of the noteworthy items that I've found in the grammar all semester. And if I want to see them in context, I can go back and forth. So really where Accordance shines with these grammars is in helping you get a lot out of them, to find stuff you want very quickly, but also to mark it up, interact with it, and then very easily get back to any of the notes that you've made or items in the stack that you've put. Before I used Accordance, I was just doing this in a word processing document, and you certainly still could do that, but Accordance has it really nicely integrated into the program itself, including this series of hyperlinks. So again, just to sum up, you could interact with the textbook through highlights, through user notes, through user tools, by adding to stack, probably other ways that we're not mentioning. We talked about search fields as well, and how you can use those to take advantage of your textbook. So that's semester 1, making the most of your Greek grammar textbook. And there are other grammars, of course, that you can use, and search fields will be there as well, and you can use all of these user tools with your grammar textbook of choice. So let's move on now to Greek in context, Greek vocabulary and parsings in context. And so I'm going to close Decker now. We're not going to use that textbook anymore, I don't believe. Now we're going to get into a Greek New Testament text. And for our purposes, it doesn't really matter which one we use. I'm just going to use the NA28 Greek New Testament. There it is. I'm going to make the font more legible. And I've got a semester of Greek now, and what do I do with it? How can I actually start to see some of these words in context? By the way, Decker is actually very good there. Let me just go back and show you one thing I didn't show you. Decker has in his vocabulary, he has some, there are hyperlinks here. Well, actually, the developers did it. There are hyperlinks here so that when you're looking at a given Greek word, you can click on it and see all of its uses in the text itself, which is just a great way to start getting your feet wet with Accordance. I think it's with the Greek text rather. I think especially as you move on through Decker, when you get into second semester, I don't think you could do Decker in a full semester unless you were going really fast. You're going to know enough Greek that when you click on these words, you'll know some of the surrounding words and you'll be able to see it in context. So that's a really useful feature of this particular grammar that I meant to show earlier. But let's close the grammar. Let's say we're just on our own with the Greek New Testament text and we want to start to search different vocabulary or parsings that we've learned Let's talk about how we would do that. I'm just going to get my user note open here again, or my user tool rather. Okay, so we're going to use the count command. The count command is found in the same place that we found the style command when we were searching highlights. So you get there the same way, whether it's right-clicking from the search entry box or a keyboard shortcut, or whether you want to go to the search menu and enter command, or whether you want to just start typing count. And then there's a question mark. So accordance wants, if you're using the count command, you're searching words by frequency. And you'll see that in Decker and just about any other Greek textbooks. The idea is that you start by learning highly occurring or frequently occurring vocabulary, and you work your way down, because you're going to see the definite article all the time, and you're going to see certain verbs and nouns more frequently. And so you learn the kind of frequently occurring ones first and work your way down. Well, accordance will actually show you particular words with frequency counts in the context of the biblical text itself. And so I've put here in the notes, adjust word count frequency. So let's say I've learned through Decker, and I don't know how far down he goes, but let's just say whether it was Decker or my own learning, I got to learn all Greek words that occur 51 times or more, or you could say 100 or 150. The number really doesn't matter. You can pick it for yourself. But let's say I know all Greek words that occur 51 times or more. I can see in the context of the biblical text now all of the words that occur 50 times or fewer. And I might want to do that because as I'm starting to read through the Greek New Testament, I might just want to see visually what words are going to be an issue for me. You've likely seen readers' Greek Bibles or readers' Hebrew Bibles where they footnote words of a certain frequency, and you're basically kind of setting that up for yourself here. And so I'm going to run count 1 through 50, and that's going to give me all of the words that occur 50 times, 1 time, and everywhere in between. So I'm going to pull up that search. It happened instantaneously. Sometimes this takes longer if you're running, if you did like 1 to 200, but I've got 1 to 50. I'm searching all words occurring 50 times or fewer in the Greek New Testament. And I can see here in the very beginning in Matthew, I've got a lot of red and bold. That's to be expected because these are proper names from a genealogy. So let me just advance here to John so we can see how this works. Now, something may strike you as odd here. I've just advanced by book to John, and I'm right in John 1:3. That is not an error. That, in fact, is a good thing for me in my quest to learn Greek. It means that John 1:1 and John 1:2 and John 1:4 and 6 and 8 do not have any words that occur 50 times or fewer. That is to say, the verses that I'm not seeing here are not showing up because they don't have any hits here. And so that means when I do see those verses, I should expect to be able to read them with the vocabulary of words that occur 51 times or more. I'd like to see those verses, and so I use this context slider here. Show additional context for each verse. I'm just going to slide it all the way up to A so I see everything. And sure enough, as expected, John 1:1 does not have any words in bold and red because all of these words occur 51 times or more. In fact, you'll probably only need about a month of Greek before you can read this particular verse. And here's verse 2. Verse 3 only has one word that I don't know. Verse 4, verse 5. And so I'm looking here. I'll just make this smaller so you can see. Even here in John 1 through 8, there are very few words that occur 50 times or fewer, which is why so many recommend John as a good place to start. You'll find the same thing in 1 John, that it tends to use vocabulary that's frequently occurring elsewhere. And so that's going to be something that you can cut your teeth on as you're beginning to read. So I've done the count command here, 1 through 50. Again, we know where to find that. It's in the same place as the style command. And you can adjust this. Maybe 1 through 50 is too hard, so you want to go 1 through 75. You can run that search. And just don't forget to adjust the context slider if it's not already at A so that you can see everything. Now, one neat thing about this, and I've put this in the notes here, you can, if you want to, highlight all of the hit words that show up so that they permanently occur in your text. Because as I look at this, these are not actual highlights. These are just hit hit results being put in bold and red. And so as soon as I clear this, it's going to go away. But suppose you want your NA28 Greek New Testament text in accordance to always show words that occur 50 times or fewer in a particular highlight style. So I'm just going to rerun that search, count 1 to 50, and I'm going to go now to my highlight palette. And we were here before. We're going to go to the gear icon, and we're going to define a highlight style. So we're going to make a style called, go to new, 50 times or less, or however we want to name it, or vocab 1 to 50. It's just whatever you'll remember. And I might choose now to, I might do a black underline here, or double underline, okay? And you can see in the sample text what that's gonna look like. All right, so I've got a new highlight style now. And so my search is run. My font here has turned to gray, which means the search has already been run. So I've got all the stuff here. This shift equals hits note was, it's in the highlighting palette. I probably used Accordance for about 6 months before I knew what it did. But if you hold down the shift key, as I'm doing now, and click on a particular style, what that's going to do is highlight all of the hit results with that particular style. So I've made the style for vocab 1 to 50. I'm holding down shift, and it says, are you sure that you want to highlight every hit in the front window? That's this one, and I do. So I click on OK, and now what I've got is every Greek word occurring 50 times or less in the Greek New Testament is in that double black underline, or whatever style I had selected. Now I want that red and bold to go away, so I can just clear this, and there it is. That will show up. I can even run other searches now. I could even do, I don't know, 51 to 75, so words that occur between 51 and 75 times. So now I've got that showing as my hit results, but my 1 to 50 words are highlighted there in a more permanent way in the text itself. You can really go wild with this. You can, I'll just skip ahead here to enter tag. You can highlight all verbs in a certain color. You could highlight all nouns in a certain color. You could underline all participles. The way to do that is similar to what we just did. You need to find the hits first. So this, I'm skipping ahead here to C. And again, right click. This time we want enter tag. And you have a number of options here. I'm just going to go to verb for now. And you get, you can choose person, number, tense, voice, mood. I'm just going to say all verbs. So click OK. You don't have to select any of these. And that's gives me the syntax there, brackets with verb in the middle of it. Now, if I hit enter this search, that did actually happen pretty quickly. So I've got all the verbs now in the whole Greek New Testament. Again, we don't see Matthew 1:1, but we're not surprised because we know we just need to make sure that context slider is there. So there it is. So I've got all the verbs there in red and bold because they are hits, but I can go right back to my highlight palette if I want to and create another new style, define highlight style, go to new here, and I'm going to just call this Greek verbs. And you might do another double underline. Maybe this one is red. Again, you can decide how you want to color code this in a way that makes sense to you. But now that I've got that style defined, I can do shift and click on Greek verbs, and it's going to underline every Greek verb in that red double underline. So I can undo that search now, and you can see all the verbs are in red. So this is really fun. Again, you could decide how far you want to go with this, but the way to do it is right click, enter tag, and then you can decide what you want to do. You could even get really specific, and you could do aorist verbs one way. That's under, let's see, that's under tense. You could do aorist verbs one way, perfect verbs another. Again, all due to personal preference, but lots of options for highlighting and really marking up your Greek text. But another way you could use this is you don't have to highlight at all. You could just say, all right, I'm in my second semester now. I know I should know participles, but I'm, or second person imperatives, but I'm a little fuzzy on those. So you can just go to that particular category and go to mood here to find participle, and maybe it's even more specific than that. Maybe it's any feminine participle. Maybe it's feminine singular participles. I don't know what it is for you, but if you click on enter, it will give you the right syntax, and you can find, okay, here's 495, and I'm going to work on these in context. And then you could also open Decker back up in your grammar, and you could search titles for participles, and you could look at some paradigms and the text side by side. This, I think, is what's going to keep us the most motivated for learning Greek. If we're coming to Greek with the idea of reading a text, and it might not even be the Greek New Testament, it could be classical Greek, or maybe it's the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible. I'm convinced from personal experience, and I know the experience of others, that being able to be in the text itself that you want to read is going to add some motivation beyond just looking at the textbook. So you really can do both. As you start to get a handle on different grammatical categories or vocabulary according to different frequency, you may want to have the textbook open as a reference, but also run these searches in the text itself. And that's really going to help you internalize the things that you're learning in the textbook. I want to go backwards in the outline here and just talk for a minute about book-specific vocabulary. So we'll do that briefly. I'm going to clear that search. I've got all the highlights here from before, but that's fine. We'll leave those there. You can, if you're reading a particular book, you can get a sense of the vocabulary for that book. What are going to be some frequently occurring words in this particular book? And I'll show you how to run that search. We know the asterisk search, that is search all when it's a Greek text set to verses. And I'm going to add a range now. I want to look at the vocabulary of, let's say, 1 John. So I'm going to add a range to that. I'm going to search all words. So this is saying search all words. If I just hit enter now, it's going to take a little while to run this search, but this is all words in the whole Greek New Testament, and they're all in red and bold, but we want to narrow it down. So I'm going to add a range to that. Same as what we've been seeing, enter command. You can get it by right-clicking, by using a keyboard shortcut. It's up here in the search menu as well, enter command, or you can just start typing. Now it's set to words, and so it's going to enter Greek as I type in RAN on the keyboard, but that doesn't matter. It knows that I might want range as an option, so I'll select that. And now I'm going to type in the book abbreviation. And so now I have searched 1 John, and so now my hits are it's a smaller subset of the Greek New Testament. And I can see a few things from just this search before I do anything with it. I can see, for example, that there are 106 verses in 1 John. That might be good to know if, say, part of your second semester is a goal to read through 1 John before you're done. You might just say, all right, well, I've got 60 days left of this class, or 50 days or whatever. That's 2 verses a day. So that's a good statistic to have. This tells you there are 2,143 hits here, so that's how many words occur in John. But what we want now is analytics. We're going to look at some word count totals. And so we've just done this first step here, search for asterisk plus range of a book, so 1 John. And now we're going to view the analytics. That's right here in your search entry box on the right. And so I'm going to click on that, and I get an option here of what to pick. I want word count totals, and under that I want analysis. So when I go to analysis, I've got now, and I'm just going to drag this and put it, let's see if we can get this to go right. Well, we'll just leave it right there. All right, so now I've got an analysis. And again, we're seeing some of the same statistics as what we had here, which is 106 verses, 2,143 total words. So that means counting them like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it will repeat them, and a number of different forms. So that's going to give you a sense of how many vocabulary words, so to speak, you need to know to read all of 1 John. But if I take this sort menu and go to count down, now what I've got in 1 John is a list of all of the different words with how many times they occur in sorted order. So I could say, all right, I have a pretty good vocabulary, but I just want to make sure to take, I'm just going to learn the first, I don't know, 20 of these or whatever it is, see how far that takes you. before you even learn John. You might even take that and add it to a stack or a user note or a user tool, but you can make book-specific vocabulary lists on top of what you already know before you decide to read through a book. We're going to see some things here that we're just not going to need to learn in our second semester of Greek. You're going to know ha and kai and autos and eimi and en and hati and theos and so on, but it might be interesting to scroll down a little bit more and see, okay, when do I get to words that I don't really know from a semester or two of Greek? And the good news is many of these words are frequently occurring words. This is why 1 John is often recommended for beginners. You'll see this word Lego, that's all over the New Testament, only 8 times in 1 John, but there it is. You might even just scroll to the bottom and see, okay, what are some words I won't see much of in 1 John, but might want to be aware of. And so you've got a vocabulary list now. Just by searching asterisk and range, you could even do, maybe you were taking 1st through 3rd John at the same time, you could do that. This might be relevant for reading through a gospel. And so you can change your range to anything you want to. In fact, you could even do all of the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all of the gospels, and treat vocabulary that way. So there's lots of flexible options. But this, I think, is where it gets to be really fun to start to practice some of the Greek you've learned in the first semester and to use accordance to help you get into the biblical text with an eye on how you've already learned or how much you know or don't know. And so using the count command is really useful so that you can see in context vocabulary words that you may or may not know. We've talked about book-specific vocabulary. And then this enter tag option as well is great for searching particular grammatical categories. You may be reviewing for your second semester exam and find that you are just feeling weak on imperfect verbs or aorist or whatever it is. Well, you can get at all of them at once in the Greek New Testament, or even a smaller sample size. Maybe you could just do all the aorists in John or 1 John or something. So enter tag will allow you to do that. All right, well, let's move on to third semester Greek. Now, you're going to be reading the New Testament for sure, hopefully already along the way. But I'll just spend a couple minutes to say I would encourage you, if you haven't already, to configure your Greek New Testament for readability. And some of this has to do with just being on a screen a lot. And so you're going to want to think about things like obviously font size, but you can also, in the gear icon here, go to set text pane display. You can change the background. You might wish to do something like parchment that feels a little softer on the eyes than say this white text. Well, you can preview all of that here in the gear icon, set text pane display, go to customize theme if you want to pick your own. You can even pick a pre-selected theme. It will preview it for you here in the preview pane, but you might want to go to customize theme and make any changes there. So you can change the background. You'll see in real time what that would look like here in the preview pane. You can even change what color it turns when you have a hit result. You can change the font color and size and all of that. So that's something that's worth spending some time on. And then if you have something you really like and click on use as default, what that's going to do is make it so that every time you open up this text from now on, it's going to look like this. If I wanted to just make that change for this session of using accordance, I could click OK and not use it as default. But if you got something you really liked, the font was nice and big, the background color was good, you liked the font of the references, use as default, click on save, and then anytime you open up that Greek New Testament text, it's going to look how you had set it up to be. There's another setting in here that I find useful to look at, and that is show as. You may want to, and this may just be psychological and this may not be relevant for others, but I know for me that when I'm reading slowly and really trying to get the grammar of a particular passage or making sure I know each word, when I'm doing slower Greek reading, I like to see the text split up verse by verse. And you can do that here in the set text pane display, and that's show as. So I've got paragraphs with a space in between. You can do separate verses, either with or without a space. I like to have a space. So now when I click on OK, you can see here that I've got a nice space between all of these verses in Matthew. And I can even make this really big if I want to, and really kind of puzzle over an individual verse. And I would be inclined to do that if I were working my way slowly through a text. But if your goal is not to work slowly, if your goal is, all right, I'm going to read 2 chapters of Greek today, you might wish to keep it at paragraphs with space so that you can really kind of see how the verses fit together visually. So that's a small visual detail, but it's worth looking into it, especially if you're going to be spending a lot of time on the screen. And so that's the gear icon here, set text pane display, and lots of options here that you can explore. In fact, you can even change the line spacing. These lines may look close together to you. I don't mean lines between verses, I mean the lines in a verse. You can change the line spacing here if you like, so that it's something like this, that might look like double spaced or triple spaced or what have you. So I would encourage you, again, spend some time configuring your Greek New Testament for readability. And then instant details, I just want to show that especially as you're getting farther along in Greek and you may be challenging yourself not to look up words, you can close the instant details altogether and move to just clicking and holding and getting the information on the word that way. That's something I certainly, after having a full year of Greek, that I would recommend. Of course, you can leave the instant details open. It might be more tempting to look up words that you want to actually make yourself puzzle over. And so you can close that all together, click on a word, especially these words I think we had in black, right, that were or red, I don't remember which was which, but our 1 to 50 words that we didn't know. Those would be words that I might say, okay, I'm going to allow myself to long click on those because they only occur 50 times or less, and so let me see what that word is. But you still don't have the instant details, so then you're actually hiding all English, so that you're really kind of forcing yourself to think along with the Greek author in the Greek language as much as possible. That would be a good goal to shoot for, I think, for 3rd semester Greek. All right, and then in this user tool, and again, you'll see this when you receive it, but these are hyperlinks to a couple of different tools in accordance that are useful for Greek reading. This is the Greek diagrams tool, and I can show you what that looks like. These are the Kellogg Read or Read Kellogg diagrams. I don't know about you, but I actually did these in 5th grade for English, where you had to take the subject goes on the left and the verb goes on the right, and then you have any modifying things. And so this person begat or gave birth to this person, and so here's your subject, here's your verb, here's your direct object. This is easy enough for Matthew, but then when you get to, say, Ephesians 1:3, you're going to have one that is, you'll have to scroll this way to get it, or you might even consider opening that up in a new zone if you want to. But this is great for making your way through the text. In fact, for me, when I'm trying to push myself to puzzle over the Greek and not use the English, this is even a better help for me than the instant details, is just to see, all right, I may not know what eulogia is, but if I can at least see how it relates to this word here, then that's going to help me, and it will subordinate adjectives and adverbs and things like that. So that's the diagrams tool in accordance. I found that very useful. A similar tool is called Greek syntax trees. You're going to find that under syntax of the Greek New Testament. This is just a different way of doing it. You can see here that you've got, as this cover image shows, brackets and groupings so that you can see how words relate. But this has more to do with how the words relate to each other, clausal relationships, and you can see more about this at the product page. I won't spend time on this, but just to say, as you're getting into reading Greek, you're probably going to want to think about either the diagrams or the syntax trees or both. And then also just wanted to highlight that this audio Greek New Testament is available in accordance. There are some, in fact, that's on one of the sale items this week. That's here as well, and that's a great tool for hearing the Greek and just sort of adding another sense to it. Even better is if you can read Greek out loud with other people, but many of us simply do not have that option available to us. So at the least, you could still add that oral sense by listening to the audio Greek New Testament, which will even open up in parallel here to accordance. I'll just show you that. Audio Greek New Testament. All right, so you can search it just as you would any Bible, but you can also open it up in parallel to where you happen to be in the Greek New Testament. So that's a great tool. One really nice thing about this is that if you want to, you can listen to an entire chapter at a time, or it's also split into verses. So it's your choice how you want to listen. But this now will follow you in parallel with your Greek New Testament text. If I were to skip ahead to John 1, my parallel Greek New Testament audio is going to follow me. And I just had to turn that off because it started playing. So there it is, Greek New Testament audio, another great way to just engage more senses now that you're in your third semester, or some of you will have had Greek already. So this, I'm using these semesters as kind of different theoretical levels that you could be at. But let's say you don't know any Greek and you came to this webinar and you've just been waiting for this last section. How do I do a basic Greek word study without Greek in accordance? Or even if you do know Greek, this is good to know. I'm going to spend our last 8 to 10 minutes or so on this, and then after that we'll open it up for a time of questions. So my last 8 to 10 minutes I'll spend on this, basic Greek word studies without Greek. And to look into that, we're going to open up a text. It could be anything. I'm going to do the NRSV. Accordance has these what's called key number texts. And you'll know that they're key number texts because they have an S at the end, NRSV S for Strong's, or you might see a Goodrich-Kohlenberger text. 1984 NIV is out of print now, but GK stands for Goodrich-Kohlenberger, and so here's the 2011 NIV with Goodrich-Kohlenberger numbers. Any text like that either has a GK or a Strong's is a key number text, which means that it is linked tightly to the Greek in such a way that you could open up your instant details, hover over a given word in English, and see what that word is in Greek. And so I may not even want to do a full Greek word study. I may just want to know what is the word for word in John 1:1? Well, it's logos. And I find that out simply by hovering over the English word. And because it's a key number text, I get that information in the instant details. In fact, what I'm seeing here is G3056, the number assigned to that word. If you were going to use a Strong's dictionary, you would look it up by number so that you wouldn't have to use the Greek characters. So if you don't know Greek characters with the print edition of this, you would just be looking it up by number. Well, we don't need that. Accordance can essentially do all of that automatically for us. And so your first question may be, what is the Greek word at hand? Well, just hovering over a particular English word in a key number biblical text will show you in the instant details. You can watch my instant details change. Will show you what that Greek word is. And you may want to go further with that. You may want to look it up in a Greek lexicon. So this gives me some helps here. These are glosses or translation equivalents. So I'm seeing that logos could mean word, speech, message, argument, book, volume. It's not going to mean all of those things everywhere it occurs. It's going to more than likely have a particular meaning depending on context and what the author meant. But these are some possible translation equivalents. But let's say I want to look it up in a Greek lexicon. The very simple move is just to triple click it. And so I've clicked it 3 times, clicked the word, and triple clicking is fairly unique to Accordance. I don't think I've seen it in another app. It's sort of like when you first double clicked on a computer for the first time, you have to get the clicks kind of closely to each other. So 1, 2, 3, triple click. And that's opened up logos now in a Greek dictionary, Mount's Greek Dictionary. Again, there's no Greek New Testament anywhere in sight here. I've got the Greek in the instant details, but even if I hid the instant details, I could triple click on word, and it's going to take me to my default Greek lexicon to show me the Greek word defined. And in fact, you may remember seeing G3056. There's the Strong's number. That's how it did it. And if you're curious, it looked up Strong's number 3056 in Mount's Greek Dictionary. Again, this is what we might have done before Accordance using the Strong's Dictionary, but it just happens instantaneously with the triple click. And so I can go to any other word. Maybe I want to look up God. It's going to look that up by Strong's number, but it's going to show me there's theos. If I don't know Greek characters, I get the transliteration logos. Mounts is great because it has an audio pronunciation built in. Now I can see logos is quite the word with many potential meanings. It could be a word, a thing uttered, speech, language, talk. Some lexicons will have a reference to your particular verse in question, and if you do, now remember it's still interpretive, it's still the informed opinion of the lexicographer, but I'm going to trust that opinion generally. And so here, Mount says ha logos means the divine word or logos, so that doesn't really define it, but at least I have here the divine word. This is more than just message or word lowercase w. In fact, this is why the ESV and many other translations give us a capital W, because it's not just a word like an utterance, it's a word like a being, a divine word that is maybe still some kind of an utterance or proclamation, but is fundamentally and ultimately a being. And so I can get that from Mounts here with the scripture reference. You can change in your preferences where your triple clicks go. And so I just went to Accordance, Preferences, and then under Amplify, you've got some options here. So this is Greek key number that I'm using right now. So this is the key number text, and it goes to Mounts. Now I've got it set so that if I'm triple clicking from a Greek text, it goes to a different lexicon. And this is BDAG, which is a classic, a good one to have for longer word studies, more extended word studies. So if I open up a parallel pane and get now into my Greek New Testament, I can go to Logos. In fact, again, assuming you don't know any Greek, the key number system enables this cross-highlighting. So I'm just hovering over in the ESV, various English words, and I'm seeing the relevant Greek words at right. So even if I didn't know what the Greek word was, I could see, all right, it's this word right here, whatever that is, cross-highlighting with word. So if I triple click from the Greek now, I can tell it to go to a different lexicon. And in this case, it goes to BDAG. So now I've got Mounts, which I often will start here. I'll triple click from an English text and get kind of a quick overview, but then I might triple click from a Greek text and get something longer, more informative. And you can see there's tons here with Logos. This would take quite a while to wade through, but you've got it there if you want it. And then once the Greek text is open, I can go further. I can right-click on the Greek word. I can go to Research, and I can go to Greek lexicons. That category will be predefined for me in my library if I did the default setup with Accordance. And so researching Logos, again, right-click, Research, Greek lexicons. That's going to look up Logos now in all of my lexicons. And so I'll have a chance to really go deep with that word if I want to. So those are a couple of different ways to get started on word studies. And then I didn't put this here in the handout, but I do a webinar on Greek word studies where we spend a full hour on this, but just to add one other component, and that is that lexicons are essentially a summary of a word's use all throughout a given text or set of texts. And so you can see for yourself how Logos is used. Of course, you could triple click and you're going to get lots of hyperlinked references here that you can look at, but you can also see for yourself how Logos is used. And you can do that by right-clicking from the Greek, search for lexeme, that's the lexical form. And now that's going to show you Logos everywhere it occurs, however it's inflected in the Greek New Testament. If you haven't learned inflections yet, it's just to say that if you were searching the word, it would be like if you were searching the word ran, you would want to see ran, runs, running, all the different conjugations of that word. And so searching for a lexeme will do that for you. Right-click, search for lexeme, and you'll see the results in Greek. You could also right-click from the English and search for not the lexeme now, but the key number, and it's going to give you that key number, and you can open up a Greek parallel to see how Logos is used throughout the Greek New Testament. So that's just another piece not to forget to add into your word study. Yes, use the lexicons, but as we do in this class where we go more in depth with this, actually searching the word for yourself and seeing how it's used. You might like to know, for example, does John use Logos any differently than Matthew does? Well, I don't know. So I'm going to read through these different examples of how, so here he uses it for ground, here he uses it for say. Matthew may not use logos, and off the top of my head, I don't believe he does. He may not use logos to refer to a being, let alone a divine being. But that would be a question I would have as I was doing this word study. And so searching for it throughout the Greek New Testament is a nice addition to just looking at it in the lexicon itself. You can actually see for yourself and then advance by book, how do the different authors use this, and what light does that shed on what John might mean when he says, in arche, in halagos, in the beginning was the word. And doing a word study by way of word search will help you get better clarity on that. So I'm going to stop there. As Linda mentioned, we're going to have this user tool outline available later on. And so we've thought in terms of different semesters today, how to make the most of your Greek grammar textbook. We've looked at how to really delve into that using search fields, as well as marking up your textbook, coming back to it later with different searches. We looked at Greek vocabulary and parsings in context. We talked about reading the Greek New Testament and some tools that are available for that. And then we spent just a little while here on basic Greek word studies, whether you know Greek or not. Accordance, thankfully, makes it possible to do Greek word studies even if you haven't had the chance to take a class or have taken a class and forgotten most of it. You can still get in and out of the Greek very easily in Accordance. So I will stop there, and I think we're going to turn it over now to Linda to help us with any questions that folks might have.
Okay, are there any questions that haven't been answered already in the questions section? If so, would you go ahead and type those in? And Mark, did you have any questions?
No, I think they've all been answered, but yes, please. There's a lot of people here, and if you have any questions, just type them into the chat box and
I have a
the question box. Thank you. Yeah.
I have a question for Abram. How does will LiveClick work with English and Greek?
That's a great question, and I love LiveClick. LiveClick is something that was imported in, well, I shouldn't say imported, it was added, written from scratch by Accordance developers with an eye toward BibleWorks users coming over who had something similar. In the LiveClick option, I can show you here. Let me just enable it, make my screen a little bit easier to see. So you'll notice here that you have an option to LiveClick to enable that, to click on words for analysis. This gear icon is going to allow you, and by the way, this gear icon you won't see until you enable LiveClick. So having enabled that now, you can tell it what you want it to do. And I'm just for now, I'm going to do lexicon lookup, but you could also do it for verses or word usage, but let's just do lexicons for just a minute. So now what's going to happen when I click on a word is it's going to do the amazing thing of what I did before. Actually, this is a quicker way. Remember before we said we want to look up this word in all of our Greek lexicons, right-click, research Greek lexicons. Well, this is doing that in a single click. And so I might want to see logos, LiveClick, there it is in all of my Greek lexicons. I might want to see theos, there it is in all of my Greek lexicons. So from the Greek, you can LiveClick a word, and it's just a single click enabled by toggling this on and off. If you do it from the English text, it's going to do it by key number, just as we saw before when we were right-clicking, searching for key number, or triple-clicking, and it was searching it for key number. So that's going to do the same thing from the English or the Greek. And so that's really up to you how you want to do it. But LiveClick right here, gear icon, just double check the settings. In fact, this you would want to have set, I believe this is the default, but have it set to key number so that it's searching the key number, not the actual word in the lexicons and in the text when you do it. And then you can do word usage too. This is cool. I'll just show you this for a moment. You can search on the, so I clicked on, let me slow down. It's very fast. I want to see how does the Bible use the word logos? And we did this the long way just a moment ago, but I can see from hovering over word that it's logos here in the Greek. So I want to see logos wherever it occurs, but let's say I don't know Greek, and so I close that, and I want to see logos wherever it occurs, but translated back back into English. Wouldn't it be cool if that could happen in a single click? And sure enough, it can. So what I've done here is I've just clicked on Word, but because Accordance knows the key number, it's searching now all of my biblical key number texts for this key number, which is Logos. And so I get the results. Now, not every one of these hits is Word, but that's simply because sometimes Logos, as we saw in those long lexicon entries, sometimes it's translated another way. So here it's ground, here it's say, here it is words or sayings, so on and so forth. But this is showing me now not an English search for word, it's showing me a Greek search for logos, but translated right back into English, which you can harness this for even more power if you know Greek, but even if you don't know Greek, you can get very similar results.
Okay, there's another question. What do you consider a good minimal set of tools for learning, and how would you compare the Decker and Mounce textbooks?
Oh, that's a great question. Very good question. Yeah, I would say a biblical text for sure, so a Greek New Testament. I would say a lexicon of some kind. And Mounce is, as concise as it is, I have found this to be, I've just gotten a lot of mileage out of the Mounce lexicon, although I think it's called Mounce Dictionary if you want to find it in your library. I've gotten a lot of mileage out of that, and it's because of how Accordance has set it up, that it has hyperlinks and translation equivalents and definitions, but it also has hyperlinks to a word search. So it will search it for you if you just click on that. It's got audio. So I would say Mounce is a really good basic one for lexicon. So biblical text, lexicon, and then I'd say a grammar of some kind would be good. Those three I would start with: a biblical text, a good lexicon, maybe two, and a grammar. As you start to go further in this, commentaries certainly are helpful here. There are Greek-specific commentaries you can get, and as your Greek knowledge expands, you'll only make better and better use of those. In terms of differences between Mounce and Decker, a key difference that I think of is that Decker includes the Septuagint, and I just want to see if I can find where he talks about this in his preference. It's probably going to be, well, in fact, it's right here. Why include the Septuagint in a book like this? Don't most introductory textbooks intend to teach Koine Greek? Focus on only the New Testament? Yes, they do. However, value in reading a wider corpus. And so he kind of has the justification here for that. That's one kind of primary way I would say in which Decker is different from Mounce. Ways in which those two grammars are similar in Accordance, though, is that they both have lots of great hyperlinks, audio files, things that you wouldn't find even in a Kindle edition or PDF edition. So in that way, those are two of the modules I think that have gotten a lot of attention with kind of some add-ons that enhance the learning experience. But I would say the primary difference is the Septuagint, and then of course they have grammatical approaches that differ from person to person that I think would be more of interest if you are teaching the grammars and trying to decide which one to use. But as far as learning first year Greek, I think either one is a great bet to get started with.
Okay. How can we access the other study options like the word studies that you mentioned?
Well, there's not much you need to do to access them except to have a text. And from the text, I mean, a lot of the word study stuff that we looked at is just basic built-in functionality. And so you'll need to have a key number text of some kind. And that's going to be one that has strongs attached to it or GK numbers. But once you've got that, and once you've got a basic lexicon, just like Mounce, the triple clicking is going to work for you. The live click is going to work. The right click and research by lexicon, all of that stuff is just sort of automatically programmed into Accordance. And so really you just need a Greek New Testament text, or maybe a key number text or two, and a lexicon, and then you're on your way.
Can you still use Command 9 to double click on a Greek word to hear its pronunciation?
Yes, and I think that is, Linda, we had this come up not long ago in a webinar. Is that only on Mac, or is that on Windows as well?
That is only on Mac. Yeah, they have to purchase, well, actually in Mounce, you can hear the Greek word pronounced on Windows as well.
Yeah. So command
But I
9
don't think the command line works.
is in the biblical text. And so I think, let me just do, you won't be able to hear my audio, but yeah, okay, so what I just did, so that does work. I highlighted a portion of text and I did command 9 on a Mac. And this is under amplify, and it's buried somewhere. I think it's under language. Yeah, there it is, speak. So that's what the question is about. You can do that. And I don't know if Mark or Richard could say more, but that's not, if you really want to hear the text read, you should get an audio Greek New Testament, because this is more of a programmed, kind of computerized. I mean, it will work for you to hear how the words are pronounced, but in terms of fluid Greek reading, this Greek New Testament audio is read by a human in a way that will be more helpful to you.
Okay, and let's see, some of these Mark is answering along the way. I do a lot of work in Spanish, and I'm wondering about tagged Spanish versions, which actually we do already have some.
Yep. Yeah, there's this one, Reina Valera. There are a couple of other ones too. I don't want to steer you wrong, so let me just look this up. But I know there's Dios habla hoy, but I don't remember if that is tagged or not. So let me just, I would just search the store for Spanish text, but what you do want to make sure is to, I mean, it will tell you if it's a key number text or not. So the 1909 Reina Valera is. The 1960, I'm not sure if that one's tagged or not with key numbers. It may not be.
Yeah, Abram, I think the ones we have in Spanish that are key number tagged are the Reina Valera 1909, 1960, and 1995.
Okay.
Then we have quite a few other Spanish Bibles as well, but they're not tagged.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mark.
Sure.
I thought there was Dios habla hoy, but yeah, here it is. But this is not tagged. Sorry,
How can I see the parsing information for a Greek word in instant details when hovering over an English word in the KJV with Strong's?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, let's look at it. Open up KJV with Strong's. And
and he continues there. I see the Strong's number and Greek word, but not gender, number, and case.
Oh, sure. I suspect what's happening is a preferences issue. And if you go to the instant details there, you can choose what shows in the instant details. And so this, so under key numbers, if parsing is unchecked, you'll see no parsing. But if parsing is checked, you'll see, let's go back to that same word. Yeah, there's the parsing. I'm pretty sure, ask again if that didn't solve your issue, but I think it's got to be a preference selection. And Accordance does this because, it tries to be as customizable as possible. This is not a menu that you're probably going to be changing a whole lot or every day or every week. But I certainly, with the key numbers, I like to show everything. And then again, you can just decide what's useful here for Greek and Hebrew. That's a separate set of options for what shows in the instant details when you hover on a Greek or Hebrew text.
Abram, while you're there at the King James, can you open up in parallel that little tool called Greek Parsing under Greek Studies? If you open up that, go down to, I think it's, and then under Greek Studies, it should be you don't have the parsing tool, do you?
No, I don't have that. Or at least, maybe I have it, but don't have it installed on this computer.
Okay. Just to let people know that what that does with the King James, it actually pulls that text out and then shows you every part of speech that sentence has. And then it says, then it defines for you in a sentence what a participle is, or what an aorist tense verb is, or singular. So right away, you have a key to looking at all of those different little individual parts of speech within Greek to help you identify that word.
Mm-hmm. That's really useful. Well, I will be installing that after this webinar right onto this machine then.
Okay, did you show in the preferences a Mounts version that was keyed to Strong's?
I don't think so.
Oh, you know what? Mark answered that.
Okay.
let's continue on.
Okay.
How can I change the default lexicon in instant details?
Oh, sorry, I lost you there, Linda. Do you mind asking again?
How can I change the default lexicon in instant details? You may have just covered that.
So you, I just want to make sure I get the question. What you're seeing in the instant details, generally speaking, is going to be a translation equivalent, and that comes from, and Mark or Richard or Linda, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that comes from a parsing, I forget what, there's a file in accordance, I forget what it's called, it's a gloss file or something like that. So this word speech message thing, I don't think you can change that. There is a possibility though, and we didn't talk about this, but you can actually, when you hover over a word, you can click on command, and I'm almost certain this would be control in Windows. And
Yes.
what that will do is that will show you your default lexicon. So you can't see it, of course, but I'm just clicking on command here, and it's toggling between the basic translation equivalent stuff, whatever I've told my preferences to display in instant details, and my default lexicon entry. These were the same ones. Remember, we triple clicked from English, we got mounts, and so now I'm just clicking on command or pressing on it and triple clicking on Logos. Remember, that took us to BDAG. So now I'm hovering over Logos, pushing down command, and it's showing me the beginning of BDAG there. So that's how you can change what shows when you do command, because it's tied to your preferences. But as far as that first hover that doesn't have a command click, I'm almost certain and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm almost certain you can't change this, because I think that's part of the gloss file that's kind of programmed into how Accordance shows you the instant details.
That's right, Abram. It is built in, and
Okay.
That's not changeable. Yeah.
Okay.
Although if there's something that's obviously incorrect, please send us a correction report for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thanks.
And I've got a question here that Kelly has posted. Please give a word about audio. My Greek from years back in seminary left me with the impression that audio was unknown. Is there new research that I've missed?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, no, I think the debate sort of rages on in that sense. That probably is a little bit above my own knowledge of Greek, except to say that I'm almost certain the GNT audio is the Erasmian pronunciation, but I'm just going to look it up to tell you for sure. So yeah, I don't know if we'll ever know how it was pronounced, but I believe this is the only Greek audio available in Accordance. Yeah, here we go. This has some information on it. But yeah, I'm sure it's advanced in the last however many years, but certainly not to any kind of scholarly consensus about what it would have sounded like then.
Okay, let's see. We have textual criticism for our third semester Greek. What tools in Accordance can be used for New Testament textual criticism?
Yeah,
and I might add there that I do have a recording on New Testament textual criticism that might be helpful, and that's in the Accordance 12 recordings. And there's another question down below about the recordings, and you'll get links to both of those pages, the Accordance 13, where all these recordings will be posted, as well as the Accordance 12, so you could find that in the Accordance 12. And I'm sorry, Abram.
Great.
Just one.
Yeah, well, just very briefly. So in Accordance, you've got you've got a Greek New Testament text, but then you've got one with Sigla, which is the NA28 that you might expect to see in print. And that I didn't show that today, but this has all of the symbols. Let's get to one here. It has, of course, these are small, but it has all of the symbols in the text. And when you hover over them, you're going to see that footnote, or what would be on the footnote or the bottom part of the page. You could either scroll that in parallel, the sigla, or see it in the instant details. And this is another one of those modules in accordance that I think has gotten a lot of attention to make it much more than just an electronic version. I mean, the hyperlinks here are extensive, and you can kind of go back and forth between sigla and the apparatus, and you can search the apparatus by I think you can search it by abbreviation and things like that. So Accordance has that available, and then of course the UBS Greek New Testament is another way of doing text criticism. Those two different texts have some different characters. So those apparatuses are available in Accordance, and so that would be a good place to start, especially for third semester Greek. If you were going really far, or if you wanted to go farther than just what's there with the Greek, with text criticism, there is in Accordance, I don't have it, but there is in Accordance a tool called, I think it's the CNNTS Center for, well, we'll see here in a minute, Center for New, yeah, I'm blanking on the name, but there's a text criticism tool in Accordance. Well, there's Comfort, that's another one. There's another apparatus that's fairly extensive. I would probably say whatever Linda's going to send you on this for the webinar is going to be great. And then I would say just go to the store. If you want more than just the NA28 and the UBS text, see what's in the store on text criticism. There's quite a bit. And you even can get, I mean, if you really want to just do this for yourself, you can get individual manuscripts in Accordance and look at manuscript transcriptions. So for example, here are some manuscript transitions. Of course, this is all caps, so that's harder reading. But if you wanted to really go deep, there are particular manuscripts that you can purchase as standalones in Accordance. That's if you want to actually look at them yourselves rather than, you know, what the editors collated for you for the NA28 and the UBS. But probably for third semester Greek, I would say either of those two texts, the NA28 and the UBS, having the apparatus and all the hyperlinks in Accordance will make it easier. You're still at some point probably going to have to learn what the symbols mean, and I can remember that being kind of a steep learning curve for me and others in my own course. But Accordance will make that at least a little bit easier for you.
Yeah, and Abram, oh sorry, just wanted to, it's the CNTTS apparatus that you were referring to, and yeah, it's the Center for New Testament Textual Studies. There's sometimes a little bit of confusion between that and CSNTM with Dan Wallace, but this is from New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary, and it is very comprehensive, much more comprehensive than the apparatus that comes with the NA28 if you're into that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah, I was going to make mention real quick. I'm taking a look at something here, but. Just to let you know, next week, not this week, but starting next Tuesday, Kriegel is putting on a special publisher special. And so even though we have a 25% coupon right now and we have things on sale, I just wanted people to know that they probably should wait until next week for anything that we have from Kriegel. Example, it does have a Reader's Lexicon of the Greek New Testament. It has commentary on the manuscripts of the text of the New Testament by Comfort. So there will be some materials next week at more than the 25% off. So I would just say if you're interested in some of those things, I would hold off from Kriegel until next week.
I would add too that the Metzger text commentary, that's Metzger, M-E-T-Z-G-E-R. That's often used in third semester Greek. That's available in Accordance. There is not much that I'm aware of that exists in print that does not also exist in Accordance for New Testament text criticism. I mean, there's pretty much anything you could possibly need is in Accordance. Accordance has that particular field very well covered, I think. I think if you, and let's do this through the store here. So there are a couple different NA28s that you can get. There is the what's called the GNT 28T, where you get just the Greek New Testament, but you can also get with apparatus, and that's NA28T. Let me just check these abbreviations here. Yeah, so there's GNT28T. That's this text. I mean, the covers are all the same, but you can get it with or without the apparatus. And so those are going to be, there's what's called morphological tagging. So either of those texts or the UBS that we looked at, they're all going to have hovering over and getting the morphological information.
Abram,
there.
While you're there at the store, would you type in the specialty starter or specialty Greek?
Oh, sure.
I believe that has in it, that's on sale at 50% off. Now, granted, people might already have the Accordance 13, but if you don't have Accordance, we have a really good sale right now on starters for under $50. And it won't be under Compare Collections. It's called Specialty. Yeah, their current special should have it.
I'm trying to get there. It's I don't know why my internet is going slow on that.